All right. Welcome everyone. Today, as everyone saw, got Black Ram here. We'll be doing the one-on-one. How you doing, brother?
Oh, brother, hanging in there, man. Another Saturday, man. Just getting off work recently, and man, just glad to be here and glad to be alive and well in this day and age.
Oh yeah, man. I hear you. I hear you, brother. Well, I guess we'll get started. One of the one questions I had for you was I know I've been a long time subscriber here for a while now of yours,
Mm.
and I know you talked about you being a Hebrew Israelite, and I was wanting to, I guess, go by and ask you, your principles as far as that for life,
Oh
and
yeah,
how you operate in that, sir.
absolutely, absolutely, brother. No problem. Any question you want to ask, I'll gladly.
Let's see. Let me think. I guess first of all, uh, would be well, I mean, what is your approach in everyday life? I guess in general with people in general.
In terms of what? What do you mean, like by everyday life?
In terms of how you respond and deal with people, I guess out in the world, I know. Okay, I'll put it to you like this. I know a lot of people, especially in Christianity and what we're taught as far as in Black America, it's taught from how an emotional standpoint to actually deal with people instead of a more pragmatic standpoint.
Hmm.
So I guess I was wondering, is the way you operate and deal with people every day more pragmatic and practical, or
Yeah, man. For me, I'm sure you're familiar with my In the Shadow series, and for the brothers in the chat, if you are familiar with the In the Shadow series, if you like, hit that number one. So here's the thing with me: I try best, my best to stay away from people as much as possible. I'm the type of person that avoids the crowds. I try to avoid certain conversations, and I try to be as low key as possible. Low key as possible. Now, of course, it's impossible not to have human interactions. I mean, we live in a society, which means we are social, and we have to be. No man is an island. However, when I move in everyday life, I try my best to limit my exposure. If I am amongst the crowd, it's for one specific reason. I'm trying to get in and get out, man. So practically everyday life, I try to talk as less as possible, be around people as less as possible, and be seen as less as possible. Other than like-minded men like yourself and the gentleman in the chat, I'm not a people person. I can honestly say that I don't really like people for the most part. I'm much more of a cynic and pessimist. I think human nature is mostly bad. Uh, I see the evil parts of human nature more pronounced than anything positive. So within that light, in the world that we live in, being completely overrun by evil, I try to keep my distance. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm shy or afraid or anything like that, but I just choose to not be in the company of people other than those who are like mine, like the gentleman here today listening to this show.
I got you. I got you. I understand. I'm the same way. And as far as that, I know, I think listening to you for so long and it kind of it helped expand my thought process, which I was already going through anyways, but it helped to expand me as far as how I operate in my life and helped me to see other angles as how I see the practicality and what I read as far as in the book. And because, one thing I know we both can agree on is how it's been taught and how we see, it's always from an emotional standpoint in a
Yeah.
way that's not conducive to male learning and application. Which, in in one of my other videos I did, information without application, it's basically it's like a boat on dry land. It's not serving no purpose whatsoever.
Hmm. Right.
Which is why, whenever I bring this content here, I try to bring it in a way that people can see the practical content, understand it, and want to apply it. And that way, they can choose to apply it for themselves to be able to make their selves as well as their whole life better by the choices that they make.
Oh, for sure. For
Um,
sure.
Another question that I had, I know. Let's see. I know you've been to church before. What exactly was it that kind of turned you away from the church itself?
Oh, great question, man. So, like most black men, I grew up not necessarily in a Christian household per se, but when it was time to go someplace on a Sunday every now and then, or for Mother's Day and Ishtar or Easter, of course it was the church. And when I was a kid, I would have to do my Easter speech. And my sister was a devout Christian, and I would have to go to church with her because she was my babysitter, of course. So I would say that I've been in church all my life up until the age of probably about well, I'm gonna say 20 something. Um what turned me off, and again, this was a lot of churches. In fact, let me go back. I started off in an apostolic church, and then from there, on my own as I got older, I started going to a Baptist church and then a Word of Faith church. I'm not sure if you're familiar with guys like Bill Winston, Creflo Dollar, Kenneth
Yeah,
Copeland.
Creflo Dollar. I think a lot of people heard of that
Yes, yes, yes,
guy.
yes. So as I got older, still being attracted to Christianity, I kind of gravitated from the Southern Baptist churches and the First Baptist churches more to the prosperity and health and wealth sector
Mm.
of Christianity. One of the reasons is because I'm a lifelong asthmatic, and I was seeking healing for my asthma. And of course, being a young black boy in the hood, of course, I wanted some money. And I did fall for the okey doke at an early age, believing that I could pay my way out of debt and pay my way into better health, which again um, was a falsehood that I was attracted to because, again, people like your Creflos and your prosperity preachers, they prey on people's situations, they prey on people's desperation. And being destitute of those things of health and wealth, quite naturally, I believed God would supernaturally change my situation by giving to the bootleg preacher. However, from the time I was young, I would say probably about 11 or 12, I started reading the Bible, and starting with the Old Testament. And I came across the Torah, and I noticed that what the book said was quite different from what preachers said. But since I was young and influential, I believed what the preacher said. And okay, this law right here is done away. That law right there is done away. Don't worry about this. Get out of the Old Testament. Get into the New Testament. You ain't got to worry about those laws. JC, because I'm not allowed to say that name, and maybe we can talk about that later. But Jay Z
Okay.
paid the price, so you can go ahead on and eat a pig, and stuff like that.
Right.
So what pulled me out of that, of course, was the grace of the Most High. Um, but from a everyday practical standpoint, from observation, I noticed that what all the preachers were saying was not adding up to what the scripture was saying. So the straw that finally broke the camel's back, I was in this church in Chicago, a Chicago suburb. And again, it's a popular pastor. I'm sure he's is in national syndication. His name is Bill Winston Ministries.
Okay.
And he was talking about how people need to stop giving down to the poor and give up to the rich. And every scripture he went to didn't say anything about giving up to the rich. In fact, when I ran the reference, some Bibles have what they call a center column reference. So
Right.
each scripture has two or three scriptures that pretty much talks about the same subject. So when I would look up the referent to the scripture, it was all talking about giving to the poor. And I was like,
Mm.
wow, this man, I'm looking at the book and I'm looking at him, and I was already kind of feeling, like, hey, this is not really where it's at. So I'm like, no, this guy's actually blatantly lying. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So what I
Yeah.
did, I got up in the middle of the service and I walked out because I couldn't take the lies anymore. So I'm looking at the scripture, looking at the preacher, looking at everybody around me, screaming and hooping and hollering. And I never felt comfortable with Christianity, never felt comfortable in the church. All of the emotional outbursts,
Hmm.
all of the singing, all of the dancing, always felt like a foreigner in there anyway. And when I realized that what was being said did not line up with the scriptures, I said, you know what, it is time to go. And that was my last time going to church for a specific reason, like hearing spiritual information.
Gotcha.
If I returned to church after that, it was for, you know, funeral or probably wedding or something like that. Now, at
Gotcha.
this age, well, at this time, I'm probably about 19 or 20. And I just left the church alone pretty much completely and start studying the scriptures again. And at some point, I want to say, man, through the years, because I thought that even though I left the church because it didn't line up, I pretty much thought that I was outside of grace and favor with the Most High. So I would
Mhm.
read the scriptures here and there, but I wasn't really serious about it. Now, back in the time when I was involved in Bill Winston Ministries, I probably read uh, probably about 150 prosperity books. So I had
Wow.
to throw a lot of that stuff away and throw a lot of that information away because I was really, really into it.
Gotcha.
And it was just not the truth.
Right. Right. Yeah. I know I've been in and out, and within this past year, I've kind of I've gotten out. With what I have here, I said that for myself, it was more prudent to me to be able to bring some practical and more truthful information that wasn't watered down and controlled by feminism. Um, that would be conducive to men in general.
Mm,
Everything that I've learned and seen and noticed that it gets it just either outright lied to, or people you begin to notice that there are a lot of people that don't really truly have an understanding of what they're reading. Because I've come up, I'm not gonna lie, I've come up in Christianity as far as Methodist and Southern Baptist, but
mm,
to your point of what you said about JC, and nowhere in there does it even say that he's done away with what existed before.
exactly.
He said, I'll come to fulfill, not do away with anything. I
Mhm,
come to fulfill, basically add a complete. Now, yeah, true, there maybe have been some minor amendments, but to do away with what come before, no, he did not come to do that. He come to fulfill it. And but you have these these jackleg preachers, false prophets, whatever you want to call them, and then their followers that are teaching this stuff to these kids that just screw them all up. And
mhm.
it's bad. So I wanted to create something here that would be more concrete and practical, show the pragmatic truths that are held within these texts. And one of the first things that I told my viewers I wanted to make a point of is that the
Mhm.
Bible, first and foremost, it is a familiar book on the
Yeah.
line of Adam. I
Mhm.
wanted to bring that truth out. I said, so it's not going to contain the whole complete aspect of human history. This book right here is primarily on that line, that ruling line of the line of Adam. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get that scripture real quick. It says, "For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth." I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Matthew 5:17. Think not that I come to destroy the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle shall no way pass from the law until all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break the least of these commandments and shall teach men so, he should be called in the least of the kingdom of heaven. But
Yeah.
whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So, of course, Christianity says there are no laws that we need to keep and follow. So, a big falsehood right
Exactly.
there. So I
Exactly.
just wanted to get that out. You had said something before I got that scripture. What was that?
But oh, doggone it. Oh, heck, it don't matter because that spiritual, that right there was so powerful with what I was wanting to lead to, anyways.
Okay.
Was that basically they're lying, because here's a simple fact. I mean, these laws are the rule and guide of how you're supposed to live. But
Mm,
whenever his teaching was that the laws, that if there is a important law, it's two laws that are more important than any of them, and all the others are based upon these two. And
mm,
that's basically to love the Father, and
mm-hmm,
and to uphold that truth and put nothing else before him. And
mm-hmm,
people think about only they actually think about other gods, as far as what they're taught. But it's not only that. It's about money for vain reasons. People,
Mhm.
women, anything that
Mhm.
would cause a damage in that relationship with him. And then also the other part of it too was simply, in that love, was to not, be lying about the truth of him, which you find a lot of these pastors doing. um
Yeah, because I think that the starting point should be, first of all, we have to ask ourselves, well, who is God? Who is he? And that's a question we need. That should be our starting point. That should be the foundation. In theological circles and seminaries,
mhm,
um, it's called theology proper. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the term, but it's called theology proper. So in theology proper, it's the question of who is God, and the difference between my faith in Christianity from the outset. And I also have to say this: I'm sure all of you gentlemen here are quite familiar with the Hebrew Israelites that you see on the corners, the Hebrew Israelites that you see in certain churches. Salute, Solo. I see you in the building, brother. But my faith is different from the Hebrew Israelites. I do believe that the so-called African Americans in America are descendants of the tribes of Judah and the other 12 tribes. However, I make a distinction between myself and the Hebrew Israelite camps and the Hebrew Israelite churches because I am a more of an Orthodox and traditionalist. So here's the point. Um, let's go with Christianity first. The reason why I'm not a Christian, I say this again, the reason why I'm not a Christian, because by technical definition, through the Council of Nicaea, councils of Chalcedon, and all other ecumenical councils, also that happened in the past from 325 AD all the way through, I believe it was 451 was the last ecumenical council. What an ecumenical council is a group of bishops and leaders throughout church history from, I'll say, 325 to about 451, who decided exactly what they should teach as far as theology proper is concerned.
mm,
Remember, theology proper answers the question of who is God. So in those circles, they decided that God is a trinity, an idea which I reject, an idea that's never taught in the Bible, an idea that came about first off in the Council of Nicaea 325 AD, through a council that was constructed by Roman Emperor Constantine. And that
mm,
theology and that ideology had evolved from, again, 325 to about 451 with the final ecumenical council, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the Council of Chalcedon. That's just basically the name of the places that these councils met.
gotcha.
So this is where they came up with the idea of a Trinity. And the Trinity says this. It is a couple of different ways. So I'm going to say it a couple of different ways, but it's trying to express the same point. Uh, they say that God is a Trinity. In other words, three who's and one what. Three who's and one what.
Yeah.
Basically saying that the Father is God, the Son is God, and the Spirit is God. Three separate persons, but all are God. Three separate persons, but all are God. So three persons, all one God. Now, if you can count from one to three, you saying there's three separate persons. The Father's not the Son is not the Father's not the Son is not the Spirit. All right. So
Right.
three separate, distinct persons, but all three make up what is called God. Well, the problem with that is that all through scriptures, the Most High is one. Deuteronomy 6:4 says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one, not three, one person, one person." So the only person that can be called God in an absolute sense. Now, of course, we had leaders and rulers, even angels, all throughout the scripture that were called God. However, there is only one God, one divine being. And what does it mean to be God? A lot of times we
Mm,
don't ask ourselves this question. Well, the actual definition of God, the actual biblical definition of God is this: eternal and self existent. I say again, eternal and self existent. There's only one who can fit that descriptor, only one being ever, and there is not another. He has no equal, he has no counterpart, he has no companion. God is one. And that's all over the scripture which the Council of Nicaea, of course, gets that wrong. He has no equals, no equivalent, no one that you can compare him to, none of those things. God is one. I would like to just get a couple of scriptures on that. Isaiah 45
Okay.
and 11. Wait. Let me get that. Yeah, 45:11. I'll start with that. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, and his maker asked me of all these things to come concerning my sons and concerning the work of my hands. Command ye me." Verse 12. "I have made," talking about the Most High, "the earth and created man upon it. I have, even my hands have stretched it out. The heavens and all their hosts have I commanded." So one God who created the heavens and the earth, not three,
Right.
not two, but one. Let me get
One.
a couple of more real quick. Again, from the book of Isaiah. Here we go. 43 and 10. He says, "Ye are my witnesses, says the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. Even I am the Lord, and besides me there is no Savior." So there is but one God.
Right.
Nobody was before him. Nobody is after him. And then verse 15 says, "I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King." So one God. So how does that make me different from a Christian? Well, according to the World Council of Churches, in order to be a Christian, you have to believe in the Trinity. You have to affirm the Trinity.
Right.
And the Trinity is summed up in the Athanasian Creed, is three distinct but eternal persons and co-equal. But the Most High has no equal. So the Trinity says that the Messiah, or their JC, is equal with the Father equal with the Son, the Spirit equal with the Father, and the Spirit equal with the Son. And from the Torah, that would be called idolatry and blasphemy. So where I differentiate with the Hebrew Israelite community, the majority of them is that they believe in error that the Messiah is a created being who also created the heavens and the earth. My differentiation is this. My contention is this. The Messiah was born at a moment in time in the womb of his mother Mary, and he had a natural birth, and as a natural man, he had to eat, he had to boo-boo, he died and was resurrected. The Messiah is not God. God is one. The Messiah is not God, but a human being born in a moment of time. He didn't pre-exist his birth. He wasn't up in heaven flying around somewhere waiting to incarnate. That is to say, being at one place and going into a womb and coming out. No, the scripture does not say that the Messiah pre-existed his birth. There is no pre-existence. The Messiah was born in a moment of time, of flesh and blood, human being.
Right.
And I challenge anyone on that.
Right. Yeah. That's very true with that. Him saying, and that's one thing why I had to back out as far as believing that they're all equal. Whenever you look and you read, each one had different functions, and it clearly states that they're not equal, but they were created for a purpose. But they're not God, they're not the Father, as far as in the text and when you read it. Go ahead.
I'm sure that there will be many people to disagree, but the scriptures will bear this out.
Yeah.
That the Messiah is a human being.
Yeah.
And the greatest commandment is that the Most High is one. According to, I believe, Mark 12 and 29, the greatest commandment, because the Messiah was asked by a scribe, "Hey, what is the greatest commandment?" And the Messiah replied, "The greatest commandment is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." That is the greatest commandment. The primary commandment is that God is one. So if that's not your starting point, if that's not the foundation, and we know if we have a foundation that's crooked, everything else won't line up with the foundation, the building will be off. So if the starting point is that the Most High is one person and he's God alone, he alone is God, no one else. Then, and that's fine if people don't have the same faith. And this is why I don't particularly call myself a Hebrew Israelite in light of other ideologies and religions. Hebrew Israelite as in nationality In racial identity, yes.
Got you.
But in faith, no. So I'm gonna make this clear. Hebrew Israelite in nationality, yes. Hebrew Israelite in faith, no. Because I'm Orthodox. My
Got you.
orthodoxy says that the Most High is one and that there is a Messiah. But this Messiah was a human being and he was put to death. And that death was for propitiation for our sins. And he was resurrected. And he does sit on the right hand side of the Father. But he is not God.
Right.
We have a man sitting in the heavenlies next to the Father, seated in power, not a second God. But go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Yeah, and that's very powerful right there. Another thing that I want to get at, when we look at when we look at the scripture, especially, I always like to go back to Genesis, and I try and make my content not about women so much, but I know eventually it's going to have to get here. But when you look and it's misused, and when you look at Genesis and you go to chapter 3, well, actually, when you go to chapter 2, and one thing you pointed out where it states in there who the helpmeet actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And it states that she was the helpmeet. She was the one created to help his purpose that God had for him. Absolutely. And when it gets to the church, especially, I know I can say as far as in the black church, that's never taught, because who's there? The women. So they're not going to tell anything that's gonna they're not going to tell them anything that they that's gonna run them off. They're not going to tell them anything that they're gonna have to go home and have to explain and have a problem with their wife. And it's very interesting because whenever you get to chapter 3 and you look at the punishments and for eating of the fruit, and even before that, after they ate of it, you can tell that there is a pecking order. As soon as he came into the garden, it speaks of how he addressed Adam first. So that lets you know that we're not equal. So whenever you have this feminism trying to tell that we're all equal, and a pragmatical point, if all men aren't equal, how in the hell can a woman be equal to a man?
Absolutely. I don't know if you brothers in the chat have ever looked up the actual term equal in a dictionary and try to apply it to how it's used today. And it's a completely rewriting of the word. They have a term called newspeak, basically taking words and applying new meanings to them. And this is the way that the elite have hidden knowledge for years. But if you look up the word equal, and I'll do it right now, listen to this. Equal, this is from Google, says being the same in quantity, size, degree, or value. Having the ability, number 2, or resources to meet a challenge. Noun, a person or thing considered to be the same as another in status or quality. That is impossible for two people to be equal, because difference now, and we all are different, makes equality a bad word to use when describing people, because no two men are the exact same height, and even if they are, they have different parts. They may have one person's hair may be longer than the other. So equality, the way people use it today, it actually does not meet the dictionary definition. So what the American culture has done is abuse their own language and sought to change the language to pretty much fit the current cultural paradigms that we see today. So equality no longer means what it used to mean. It means something else. I'm gonna give you another definition. This is Merriam-Webster's dictionary's definition, right?
Right.
So here we go. Definition of equal means to be equal, especially to be identical in value. Identical. So it has to be identical. Well, how is anybody identical with another? It actually just doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. So what they are trying to do is just change the words for the mind program in the matrix, in which we now see each and every day. And here's the thing about language and culture. If you can control the language, then you can control the culture, you control the culture, you control the people. If you can change the language, then they can change the people and the culture.
Right.
And starting with language, starting with linguistics, you can actually even change somebody's thinking. Give you an example, since we are all here talking today. You can change somebody's thinking, and when you change someone's thinking, you can actually change their beliefs. And once you change their beliefs, you can actually change their practices. So here's what is a practical example, because you started the show by talking about practicality.
Yes.
So here's newspeak, right? So the term fornication biblically means basically unlawful sexual activity, which is a combination of fornication is the broad category, adultery would be a subcategory. Fornication broad category, and incest will be the smaller category. But the Americans, particularly, and the English, the Europeans, has changed the definition of fornication. So no longer does it mean something like incest or adultery or bestiality. It means sex before marriage. But biblically, sex is marriage. So if fornication is sex before marriage, or sex without consent of the king or consent of the church, now sin now is not, how can I say, sin is not the actual act of, well, sin has become the actual act of sexual intercourse, when sin was never the act of sexual intercourse. It was actually unlawful intercourse. So by changing definitions, now you've changed the way you think, and now you change the way you behave. So in other words, now in order for me to have sex with a woman, I have to marry her under consent of the church, or less it's fornication. So let's break this down a bit further. I don't know how graphic I can be, but I'm gonna try to be a little bit PG.
Okay.
So basically what is being said, fornication, meaning that I have to get married, which means I have to have a third-party agreement by the state. And if I don't have that third-party agreement, then now I'm a sinner and I'm in danger of judgment and hellfire. Let's break it down another way. If I don't get consent from a judge or a preacher to have sex with my wife, I'm breaking the law, which means I am in danger of judgment and hellfire. Let me go a little step further. If this European or if this bootleg preacher don't give me permission to have relations with my wife, then I'm going to hell, which makes that bootleg preacher, that European preacher, that judge, God, not the Most High himself, because I have to have consent from a man and not consent from the Most High to do what's natural. You get it? In other words, man has become God then, particularly the European, particularly the bootleg preacher. So without his permission, now I'm in sin, now I'm in danger of judgment. So they took the Most High out of the equation, and now what these men say determines whether I spend an eternity in heaven and hell, so to speak, if you believe in such. Again, by changing the definition of words, you thereby change the language, thereby change the thinking, thereby change the behavior, thereby controlling the populace. And this is how dangerous language is. And this is why we have to always be careful with language. And when we read in the scriptures, we have to go into the languages as they were originally spoken, meaning that we have to find the original definition of these words at the time that they were speaking, and what that word meant to the people that they were speaking to, not how we would like to apply it to us today based off our words. They have another name for this called hermeneutics.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I always thought about, as far as basically, with the translation. And you learned when you begin to learn different languages, some languages exist, or some words exist, or some that don't, and then some words, they have more than one meaning. So a lot of these things get lost in translation, and then you have a lot of these people that know that and just manipulate it for their own purposes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's done on purpose, because for the reasons that you spoke of, to control the populace. A lot of people, they love that feeling of power, to be able to manipulate, to be able to control over these people, because they know the benefits of doing so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You got quite a few conversations going on in the chat. That's pretty interesting.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Somebody said that you can't take an Israelite seriously because they read the KJV. Well, first of all, I'm an Israelite by nationality, not by faith. And the reason why I say not by faith, because you have too many people saying that they're Hebrew Israelites, but they don't believe in the one God of Israel. They believe in essentially two gods, or somewhat of a demigod. So that's where I break rank. But let me say this. people don't realize that the King James Bible is not the Bible. The Bible was first written in Hebrew and then translated to Greek. The Hebrew scriptures, particularly the Old Testament, were taken and made into a Greek text called the Septuagint. So then you have two. You have the Septuagint, and then you have the Hebrew Bible, right? And then those translations, as the scriptures began to spread around the earth, took different on different translations. One most notable is Latin, the Latin Vulgate, pretty much where we get our English language from, right? And from the Latin Vulgate, it then went on to different translations for English. And the King James Version wasn't even the first English translations. It wasn't the white man who translated the Bible. Bible was translated from Hebrew and Greek from all walks of life and culture. So it's not a white man's book. So let me give a little lesson real quick. The first English version of the Bible was done by a man named William Tyndale. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. William Tyndale. The second English version was done by a man named John Wycliffe, where the person of the Fugees, Wycliffe John, gets his name from. So those are two English translations already. And there were a few others. And then we get the King James Version, which was a rendering of the Septuagint. No, I'm sorry, not the Septuagint. It was a rendering from some of the Hebrew text and the Latin Vulgate and a few other translations. So what happens in this community, and I'm not belittling any brother, what happens is this. A lot of times we don't do our due diligence and actually do research. Instead, we take snippets of what we heard somebody said. Right. This is poor scholarship. We take what we heard somebody say and we piece things together instead of actually doing the research ourselves. Google is a starting point, but it by no means will be the ending point. Right. But what you want to do is specifically look at the history of the text. I would be remiss, and I shouldn't be allowed to speak on the scripture if I don't know the history of the text that I'm looking at. So you have to look at the history of the text itself. They have a term for this called textual criticism, and which they look at the history of not only the history of translation, but also the accuracy of translation. There has never been a text more scrutinized than the Bible. So your starting point shouldn't be the King James Version, because that's just a translation. Yeah. Just a translation. We have languages all throughout the earth, and things need to be translated for a person, each individual language from the nation that they come from. It's a translation. The King James Version is not the Bible. It's not the Bible. It is a translation. Oh, yeah. Now, if you want to talk about the accuracy of such translation, then again, we go into textual criticism, and we could debate that and talk about that. But to say that the King James Version of the Bible is the version of the Bible, and that it's European in its conception, I think you'll be a little remiss. Now, did Europeans play a part in it? Of course they did. I would be lying if I said that they didn't. However, we have all sorts of translations all throughout the planet, including European nations, but also other nations. Another translation is Aramaic. Don't forget you have Ethiopian versions of the scriptures as well. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And another point that Zero brought up, which is also very much true. And when he said the reason why the scripture in Texas was rewritten, because of winners of wars, take the losers shit and rewrite their belief system to assimilate them. He says it's
I can answer that. I can address that if you want me to, but you can go ahead if you.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
That is false.
Oh,
that is false. The reason why we know it's false because we actually can follow the history of translation. We can follow the chain. So it's not like history was lost. Now we're not talking about history from 10,000 years ago. We're talking about in the annals of time, more recent history. So you can actually follow the translation from a Hebrew people all the way up till now and actually compare the text. And this is what I challenge men to do, to actually look at the text. So it's presumptuous to say that, it was changed completely and became something different. Now, are there words that don't properly translate into other languages? Sure. But you literally can find the links in chains of translation. If anybody would actually know Koine Greek or ancient Hebrew, you can actually read these scripts yourself. And you don't have to go necessarily far per se. There's a little place called Britain, uh, England, if you will, and there's a place called the British Museum, and you can see the manuscript copies there in some of the original languages that it was written in. You can actually go and look at the Greek scripts yourself. So a lot of times we, again, and I'm not belittling brothers.
Right,
Please
right.
don't think that I'm being arrogant, and please don't misconstrue my passion as being, of myself, in an ill way. I'm just trying to simply point out to the dear brothers that a lot of times we take snippets of what we hear from other people and we put it together and we think we have the whole narrative. And I'll say this, and again, I'll say this with all humility. If you actually haven't researched the topic thoroughly by going as far as history as you can and reading at least 30, 40 books on the subject, it's pretty much just hearsay. Okay. It's pretty much an opinion. Okay. So not that I've read thousands of books, right, although I have read hundreds of books. I've actually done the research on the history of the biblical manuscripts and their translations. Gotcha. And what I gather, you don't have to take my word, you can do your own research. But what I've seen is a link in a chain. In fact, you can actually compare the most ancient of copies to today's copies and manuscripts, even the King James Version. And we have probably about a 95 to 98% accuracy on such. Not 100%. Gotcha. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you, brothers. But the accuracy is uncanny. There is no text on the planet Earth that has been more accurately translated than the actual Hebrew and Greek manuscripts of the Bible. And this is not hearsay. This is not something that I heard. This is something that I actually studied on my own. So I'll rest my case there.
I got you. But yeah, there's some things, as far as that, I because of the simple fact of, like he was stating, with anthropology and human history of rewriting and assimilation, boy, it's hard for me for me personally to completely discount that, because as a simple fact, we know how human beings are, that they want to control everything, and people of power, that they just become so power hungry that they will use anything, especially religion, to be able to get that foothold on people, to basically to control them and reel them in. But I have a lot of good brothers here, some who they are, I think got some atheists as well as agnostics, but like I said, I try to provide a balanced point to where they can pick, where they can see that, okay, this right here is pragmatic and factual. Now what they choose to do with it, that's on them. I don't try and force anything on anyone, because as I know I can't. You can only lead the horse to the water, you can't make it drink.
Absolutely.
And the other point that I wanted, because I don't want to try and go too long here, the other thing I wanted to bring to light is how with this religion and everything, how with the culture of in Black America, how it's affected it. And one of the things that I like to bring up, a lot of people think, well, this change, this shift, it's new, it's here. No, man, this shift ain't new, man. It's been going on a long time. The problem is we've had older people, even older than yourself, who've been lying and not telling the younger generation the truth, so they can actually get it right, so they can actually change something to make it better. What are your thoughts on that, Black Ram?
Yeah, man. We have been lied to about our history. We've been given a certain narrative. And these lies and this false narrative, of course, as a people, permeates all parts of our culture and even subculture. So we really have had a number done on us through the years. Misinformation is pretty much what America is pretty much known for. Propaganda, and the idea of using propaganda pretty much as American pie. So yeah, we have been given false narratives, and we live out these false narratives, and to the detriment of our own people. We don't know who we are, what we are, and for most part, we don't know what is true and what is untrue. And because a lot of information has been hidden from us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, a lot of people, you know, I think they, you know, especially Black Americans wonder about, you know, well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna fix this? How are we gonna um bring these? How are we gonna help them? And my thing is, that I felt, you know, they got. I mean, it's up to them. That's their choice. To me, it's pretty much almost like a. I'll be honest, man. If it was a Sodom and Gomorrah case with with Lot, and they come to me and ask me, I'm like, look, man, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, hey, don't even waste your time, man. You kill off a bunch of these people. I mean, that's just how bad it is because, I mean, when you look at how they're conditioned to like I brought up as far as with the women, you know, how they're conditioned to actually think that they deserve this and that they're supposed to be given this, or that that they have some right and they're equal to be able to control things whenever, you know, when it clearly here, according to the text, you know, we're not created equal, and they have. And even when you go to a pragmatical sense of when you look at throughout human history, everything has been built. Societies, nations have been built physically by men, as well as the principles of those societies. And the only form and the only what I want to say, the only hand that women had in them is whenever they pretty much came down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, back to that pragmatism that you speak about. Men and women are not equal, right?
Right.
I can't have a baby,
Right.
but she can. So how are we equal?
Yeah.
Her plumbing is different from mine. I cannot carry a baby.
Yeah.
Only she can do that.
Yeah.
And she cannot put a seed in me. I can put a seed in her. So
Right.
how are we equals? It's impossible.
Right. Right. And one of the most preposterous statements that, you know, I always hate when I hear it, is that whenever they have the nerve to say that they create life. And one of my
Oh,
arguments always is, oh no, you don't create life; it passes through you. There is
right,
a huge difference in that.
right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. A huge difference. In fact, um, she's pretty much, I mean, I'm sure many guys heard this before. She's pretty much the ground, and we have the seed sown into the soil. And
Mm,
that's the fact of life. The crazy thing is that the narrative in the West is so backwards to where we actually have to have conversations about what's natural and what's observable, because the program is so strong. It actually has people questioning nature itself.
yeah.
When nature, you don't need a degree to see it. You don't need any special skills to see it. All you need is the eyesight. And nature itself tells you the difference between male and female. But of course, we know our modern society wants to blur those lines even more and more each day. In
Yeah.
fact, going as far as to say that gender is actually a social construct when you see it in biological terms. Now, what if scientists looked at things that way?
Yeah.
Bacteria is just a social construct. I mean, would you even have penicillin? So it's just amazing how they can look at observable facts and features and still deny them. A delusion, um, to say the least. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I guess my one final question that I had was going to be, you know, when we
Oh,
look at
we
this.
can continue this conversation for a little while. I got about
Oh,
another
you got a
30.
little bit of time. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with this question anyways. But the other question I had was, when you look at Black America,
Hmm.
um, and boy, it's very, very bleak. Um, do you see any hope for any more as far as Black men, you know, actually improving and getting better for the culture, I guess, in
As
itself?
a whole, as
Oh,
individuals, sure.
as a whole, yeah, no.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. As individuals, yes, and this sector of YouTube is testimony to this. As individuals, yes, we can do some things. As a whole, I think the ship is sailed. The day is far spent. I think that there is no hope for us as a whole.
Yeah,
Um, you have too many, too many men, particularly whether you want to call them African American, Black, Hebrews, melanated, whatever you want to call them, but too many of us are delusional. Too many of us are weak. Too many of us are misguided and misdirected. Too many of us are simps. And too many of us don't even recognize who our enemies are. And we don't understand what the time is. And we definitely don't understand what must be done. So, having said that, since we're stuck in la la land, as long as we have some chick to chill with and watching football, we're pretty much content. In other words, lured to sleep. And sleeping dogs lie, man. I mean, it's just, I don't see us waking up. You have a lot of men that's more optimistic than me. Again, I'm a cynic and a pessimist. And I don't see things changing. In fact, I see things de-evolving. I see things getting worse. And with no end in sight. Simps are simping more. Coons are coning more. And, those people who are dysfunctional are even becoming more dysfunctional. Yeah. So we have a whole culture that promotes and celebrates dysfunction as a whole. So as a people, there is no rising, there is no lifting. When you think down is up and up is down.
Right.
I mean, how many of you men listening to my voice right now, including you, Brother Eisen-sama, if you have an intelligent conversation, whether it's now or growing up, you were looked at as lame or nerdy. And it's not just about how other people perceive you. Right. It's about how us as a culture, we perceive knowledge and information as a whole. Yeah. We're the most materialistic culture and the most dysfunctional culture and the most ignorant culture, the most emotional culture, and the least educated culture. And I'm not talking about education as far as your universities. I mean, I'm talking about educated about who we are and even how to process information. And we are a lazy culture. Instead of doing, and I'm not pushing this at anybody, any brothers here, right? But instead of doing research on any information, instead of being thorough, we go by we heard somebody say. I mean, we do everything backwards. So as a culture, as a group of people, as a nation, we do not understand civilization. We don't understand how to be civil. We don't understand the science behind life itself. We don't understand the science behind civilization. We don't understand how to actually live. We don't understand how to live. And since we don't understand how to live, let alone live amongst each other, we're lost.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And then when you look at it, when you got so many, and you got many in this space too, who aren't, like the gentleman that come here. And I mean, you'll hear them literally selling hope to young men. Oh yeah, it'd be fine. You need to get off here. You need to go outside and approach all these women. Just talk to them like that. You actually gonna find. We've had dudes, literally tell these young guys that you're supposed to search for the needle in the haystack when it comes to these females. Right. It is. I mean, it is completely ridiculous.
And that's ridiculous. I believe in smashing chicks, probably more than most people. But what I want to do with my channel is pull the wool off a guy's eyes and say, here's reality. And the reality is that most of these females today are HOs, and we need to treat them accordingly. So what I do with every video, for the most part, I'm showing proof and evidence that we shouldn't take these chicks seriously and that there are no more wives left on this planet today. And if you do happen to run across one, you blessed, you lucky. However, it's possible, but highly unlikely. So we should go on about other business instead of searching for that proverbial unicorn. Now, the best you can do in this day and age, from my observation, is, try to find someone who is at least willing to be taught. But therein lies a problem. What female have you ever ran across that's willing to be taught and learn of you?
I ain't seen that one. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is why, as the unspecialist is saying, I pump and let her dump.
Yeah.
Because for me, from far as I can see, being in this sector and studying female nature for all of these years, I think that's the most efficient, the most thorough, and the safest way to deal with women. Yeah. And Ayo Tall thing we would like to buy me lunch says, keep it casual and occasional. So let me just say it. Keep it casual and occasional. pump and let her dump, catch and
Catch
release
and let
method
her
by
release.
exactly method by BlackRam313, because we don't date, we recreate. And that's the anthem, and that's the motto, because somebody please tell me what other way can we deal with the modern HO? Because she's not the virtuous woman as she may have been in times past. Even if there were such a thing, even in times past, it was a problem. Remember, Solomon said among a
Yes.
thousand women, he couldn't find
Not a
one that's
one.
upright.
Not a one.
And we're talking about at least 2,500 years ago. Now, today, 0 out of a million, probably.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
what we have to do is try to take the best of the, the best we can out of the trash can and try to do the best we can with it.
Right.
But
Right.
that's dangerous. So I see no other way than, catch and release. Now, I don't want to be hypocritical. If you do find one that you can work with, then good. But I wouldn't say marry her. I wouldn't say put all your eggs in one cart. I wouldn't say give her your all.
Man, most definitely. Because I mean, they're not going to give you theirs. And to be honest, with feminism, they don't have to, and it is foolish to expect them to do good by you, because of the simple fact they have the winning lottery ticket with feminism,
Mhm.
and they would be a fool not to catch it, not to cash it, as Zero says.
Exactly. They,
I
they
mean,
they have the loaded weapon that they can use at any time.
right, right. They do. Uh, and that's one thing, I liked whenever I first came into the space, because yours probably was about the fourth channel I come across whenever I first, found this space. And
Mhm.
I know you were the second place that I received a wrench, when I listened to, that truth, and that you told about that. And and one of your all-time famous quotes that I always like is that, there is no line in therapy. This
Mhm.
is therapy, and it's therapeutic. So, to be able to help yourself, hey, look, you got to tell that truth. That line is what's going to get you messed up.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
But,
Absolutely.
but yes, I
And
do agree. Oh, go ahead.
mhm.
My bad.
Oh yeah, and I've said, a lot of us need therapy because we need to, even if we know the proper perspective. In this sector, the theme is going to be the same,
Hmm.
because and I've gotten criticism for talking about female nature so much. But here's the thing: your whole life you've been bombarded with feminism. You've been bombarded with a wrong narrative your whole life. So of course, the idea is to reverse that thinking and saturate yourself with the right information, because you've been receiving all the wrong information your whole life. So
Right.
you want to deprogram yourself so much to the degree that it becomes a part of who you are. Therefore, there's no regression. So that's what I do with my channel. I'm going to push the facts and expose female nature so much to the degree that if you listen long enough, that narrative will be forever cemented in your mind.
Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah. And I mean, there's no other way to do it, but to put that truth out there about what the truth and the reality of what's going on in society. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's no point in lying to them, especially when we've got all these young boys coming up, and we've already had a problem enough, anyways, with older gentlemen lying to younger gentlemen about this truth. That's where
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's gotten so much worse and gotten even worse. But I do begin to see some of the younger guys that are getting it. They talk about Gen Z is dealing with these females less and less than millennials are. And it's interesting to see how that's going to play out, as well as with Generation Alpha.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was
Yeah,
going. Do you
man.
have any questions for me, Black Ram?
Oh, yeah. So, what? How, if you could, however,
Okay.
how would you define your faith? So it's obviously you're not Christian, but how do
Yeah,
you look at things? What is your theology proper and such like that?
I would say it's got Christian origins, but I'm just ever expanding and learning every day to just try and be pragmatic in approach and more balanced. I can't deny of those Christian origins, but I see the fallacies with everything, because of the people like your Creflo Dollars and your TD Jakes and all those other people, because they're on TV and they can sell $1 million dreams to fools that are willing to pay for that. As well as whenever you look at as far as too, also with how the black church has not actually educated Black American society, how it's actually kept it dumber. You have preachers telling single mothers that they're doing good just because they got a job and got a new car, but even though they got 4 or 5 kids by multiple men. So I really, personally, for me, I haven't tried to actually label it as of now. I just try. But one thing I do want to do, I do want to learn more languages and get into more of these books to be able to delve more into the truth and the story, to be able to get a better understanding, I guess. That's just, my route with it.
Oh, absolutely. 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 So, let me ask you. So you mentioned something that I want to ask the chat. I like audience interaction.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you this, and I'll ask the people in the audience the same thing. We got Fast in His Life. I'm familiar with him. Shin Shang in the building. Gentlemen like that. Let me ask you guys in the chat room. What do you think the biggest problem with the so-called black church is? What's the biggest problem that you see with the institution of the church? Or we can go even further and expand it with religion itself. I'm just interested. I'm the type of person that I'm interested. I already know what I want to say, but I'm very interested in what the men here have to say. So what do you think the biggest problem is with the church? And any of you says lies. Now, any of you, can you be specific and tell me exactly some of those lies? Soul Provider, what up, brother? He says false hope in church hoes. Okay. Xing Shang says it's oh man, Xing Shang hit it right on the head too. He said it's gynocratically ran, and that is true. That's one thing about the black church in particular. Is actually not for men, it's for women. I'll say again, the black church is actually for women, not men. Now, black men they play in the background, but the church is actually for women. Hypocrisy, he said, misleading the deaf and blind for money, especially in Africa. And I say it as an Israeli. Okay, brother. I can rock with that. I can rock with that.
Any of you answered your question. He said pimps. Basically, I think he's leading to what you talk about, these preachers being former pimps and still pimping at the church. And Zero brought another good point, and I think it just goes to Black America as a whole, pussy being the forefront of everything.
Oh, yeah. Hey, let's just be honest. No line in therapy, man. After we eat and got a place to stay, that's our next big issue, right? We love the women. El Grande said all religions are a money grab. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. Agon, accountability standards and time goals. And to be honest, I'm like a lot of these fellows here. I don't even know if you could count it down to just one. I guess, if you had to be the number one one, would be the, of course, the feminism, how feminism has, with the government has that first foothold, the greatest foothold, because, with when you look at it with the 501c, for that status with the government, they can come in and run things. But I think when you look at it also, when you talk about the black church, the culture itself is just all screwed up. So if the culture itself is going to be screwed up, the church itself is going to be screwed up.
Facts. So would you call yourself a Christian, Eisen Summer?
No. Like I said, I have my origins there, but I don't even want to label exactly what I am. I kind of hate labels in a way,
Yeah. I mean, we think in categories. I mean, the human mind works that way. We think in labels and categories. But like myself, it's hard to define because I don't want to say that I'm a Hebrew Israelite, because automatically when I say Hebrew Israelite, we think about the guys on the corner, proselytizing.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that's their business. That's not me, and I respect them. I have gentlemen that I know who are corner preachers in that vein. However, I don't share that exact same faith. Now, I do share some of the ideologies. Yes, I do believe
hmm
as far as us being the nation of Israel. However, I don't share a lot of the same theology as them.
right,
So that's where the separation is. So it's hard for me to label myself because I do believe that so-called African Americans are descendants of the 12 tribes, and not just African Americans. There are people around the world who I won't get into now that are also descendants of 12 tribes. So not just so-called African Americans. And
yeah,
there are people in Africa who are also descendants of the 12 tribes as well. All across the globe, I would say that there are descendants of the 12 tribes scattered all throughout the earth. Now, who those are, I can't say because I have no way to prove yay or nay. It's
right,
more of a belief than anything, a belief that I cannot um, prove in no uncertain terms, and I cannot give you uh, evidence of, and
right,
which nobody can. Nobody can prove their actual nationality because you don't know where your country of origin for your great 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 granddaddy. Nobody can say it. It's because you have a certain skin tone doesn't make you part of this or that nation.
right,
So that's just my point.
right, right, right. Yeah, it's I do understand that it's human, very human to want to label things, to put that label on there, but with this, because of so many different changes as far as with the text, and as far as with so many different religions and how they branch off because of um whatever reason, it makes me want to back up from labeling myself on that. um
True.
but I do enjoy reading and going in and delving into the, like I say, the pragmatic and practical aspects of it. I mean, when you look at the scientific truths in there that you can apply to your life,
Mm-hmm.
to make your life, to make decisions much better. I enjoy more than anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
do you have any other questions for us and the fellas in the chat?
Oh yeah, a couple of more.
Go ahead.
Um, so for the brothers in the chat, I want to ask them: do they believe that our conditions as a people can change? The question that you asked me: is it hopeless for us out here?
Uh,
Let
I
me wait
already
for them to
said
respond. Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
done.
hmm So I want to know what other gentlemen believe. If they and I know it's a delay, so
Yeah,
give them
yeah,
a
it's gonna
few
be a
minutes to
delay.
think about the answer. Ignorant
Yeah.
says, "Hell no." Lawrence guy says, "Hopeless."
Hopeless.
And I think that's sensible. I mean,
Yeah,
we're taught to always want to hope, but if you look at our condition, man, it has not uh, improved. It's actually gone backwards, man.
yeah.
We've gone backwards, and we're finishing last out here in
hmm
everything. So,
Yes.
so all we can do as individuals, as thinking men, is pretty much as individuals pursue our own goals and dreams. And the only thing that we can hope for is a small few of us, we can do things outside of this sector. But as a whole, yes, it's pretty much a wrap.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a wrap.
And Faston said you can't say the majority, only a few. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's
hmm
but yeah, I think everyone's pretty much here by consensus. It's highly finished.
hmm Yeah.
It
Yeah. I
is.
would say the same
It
thing.
is, man.
I would say the
Golly.
same thing.
Yeah,
So
it is.
my last question to the audience, knowing that it's finished, knowing that pretty much out here everything is a scam, pretty much knowing that the whole society is, set against you, understanding, things like feminism and the gynocracy that we now live. And you opened up talking about pragmatism. So this is not wishful thinking. I don't want to hear the
Right.
word peace in there. But what as individuals would you guys like the most out of life? And I don't want to hear nothing like peace. I want something
Yeah.
practical. If
Right.
you want to say rich, say rich, but I want something practical. If you want a big booty, red bone say that. I don't want to see peace and happiness and all of that. So, because my point is that if it's over with, and I share in that sentiment, what are we living for?
Right.
So and so I want to push that thought.
Got you.
And
I'll let.
Eisen Seymour, you can.
Okay.
And what does freedom look like
Yeah.
to you, El Grande? What do you want, brother? What does freedom look like? That's what I want to know. What is freedom?
Oh man,
So,
right,
so
right
you
now
gotta
I
answer that
think it's
question.
knowing him right now. I think it's COVID has kind of hamped him up on his freedom. He's in Colombia, but
Oh,
he
okay.
travels all over the place,
Oh, okay. I see.
and that's why he teaches hey, no getting married and all that, no having kids, because that was the one thing that he wanted was freedom to be able to go whenever he got ready to and enjoy life. That's one of my guys right there. I like him. He's crazy.
You got some good answers though. You got peace of mind, supremacy. NEU says nobody knows what they're living for.
I think for most people that's actually true.
Yeah. The Unspecial says just want to explore the world, the wide world, travel more, and add to the languages I know. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Practical stuff, because all we can do really is move as individuals. Hopefully, in the future, we can move as a group in some sort of way, for fun. I'm not a revolutionary anymore. I'm not trying to change the world. Not trying to do that. I'm not in the streets trying to stop violence and crime. That's not my thing. The community is going to burn, so I just try to stay away from it.
You'll never be able to get rid of them. As 8Ball and MJG said, hey, when you got a trick, when you got the hoe, you always have a trick to trick. So exactly. You can't have one without the other. It'll never be.
You have to move the whole earth away to get rid of that.
Yeah, hypocrisy. Wow. I will say it is some people in this space that golly, boy.
Look at hypocrisy.
Hey, they make you make that face that your avatar has. I tell you.
Hey, let me read this real quick. Hypocrisy. That's something deep. Let's read this real quick.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah.
BlackRam.
It says, as a sociopathic introvert, that I want to become a billionaire and not associate myself with the space. Wow. What's wrong with the space, hypocrisy? What's the problem with the space? Let us know.
Oh man. A lot of what I told you earlier about these people, man. Just selling these false dreams to these younger guys that are in this space. Outright lying and knowing it, and us catching them in them, and selling these false boys this hope, these young guys a hope, to end up selling themselves down the river, just putting them in bad positions in general. I know it's one of them. Too much of the pussy first mentality. Here. And they teach it to everybody. Like I said, whenever you had the one saying you're supposed to search for that needle in the haystack. That's what you're supposed to do. And guys on the panel with women begging them, please be nicer. Can't y'all please be nicer? Like they actually care.
Now, I work a full-time stressful job. I'm sure like many of you do, you guys work a full-time. So I don't really, believe it or not, I watch YouTube, but I don't watch a lot of the live streams. I try to catch them when I can. Right. So a lot of times when I hear stuff, it's new to me.
Right.
It's new to me. Now, I know there's a lot of females in this space, but I thought guys actually like the the new advent of women sharing this space. I thought that was a
lot of guys do.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of them do because hey, they want to chase it. Like Evan Duncan said, keep in mind these are supposed to be alpha males saying this. Yeah, he's right. He's right. And ever since I've had my surgery, I've been off during that surgery, I've got to see more of this fuckery. And I ain't gonna lie, BlackRam, it has been so entertaining. I hardly even look at TV. Just to see
it is
these dudes make a fool of themselves. It is oh my gosh, it is priceless entertainment.
It is. So and that's probably what has happened. The space probably has become not about sharing information and empowerment, but has morphed into entertainment. And I think we can have entertainment. I think we can have that. However, I think this space has left its core core message. And this is why a lot of brothers I know
Yes.
who started out making content no longer are making and no longer want to make content.
Yeah.
And even myself, I've been thinking that, hey, maybe my time on YouTube has passed, and maybe my message has fallen on deaf ears, and maybe I should depart from this community myself. So I do struggle with that. You know,
Yeah.
I had told myself in 2016 that I was going to try to push for a few years and then get off. So now I'm thinking, hey, you know, I'm not saying that I am, but I'm thinking, yeah, it might be time for me to hang it up because for the most part, again, the central message that we started with before there was a such thing as the manosphere with the, you know, with the great three, you know, I myself and a few other guys, we were in this sector to enlighten men about female nature and have a space for us as melanated men, if you like that term, to come together and not only share our stories, but also empower each other. And it was about brotherhood at one time, but now it's more about beefs, which I understand. I've been in a beef myself, but it's more about beef, entertainment, hurling insults, and it's degenerated a
Yeah.
lot. Now, I'm not going to blame anybody in particular, and I'll be hypocritical if I was to say that I don't watch, the SHIT show from time to time. So I'm not putting myself above these content creators. All
Right.
I'm saying is that I think we've left our core message. So I'm more conservative and orthodox in that I don't really hear a lot of talk about the core message. And you're right, it's become a space on chasing the vag,
Yeah.
which again is something that I talk about, but in a certain perspective from that. So I can see that. So a lot of guys are saying that they don't like this space, and
Yeah.
I can see. I've seen the changes because I've been here for
Yeah.
going on 8 years.
Yeah.
So I do understand.
Yeah, I came here much later. I didn't get in here till probably about what I guess it was either right at 2016 there at the end or 17, and and for the beginning, most part, I was pretty much a ghost watcher. I wouldn't comment. I would just listen and catch
Yeah.
replays on stuff. And but then I found individuals that I saw we had a lot of things that we viewed the same. So, I
Mhm.
subscribed and went there further to, listen to more and more content. And
Mhm.
eventually, actually my cousin, who actually is a preacher, we have some different views on things. But one thing is he's never really just criticized me for them. So, for that respect, we have. And he asked me, he was like, well, you know so much and you can delve into this book that others don't have a gift with. Why don't you create that content? I said, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I said whenever I got to upgrade some equipment and do some things, and I said I probably will go that route because I feel that that's going to be my next move for me personally, and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do, and
Mhm.
to try and bring that scientific as well as balanced and pragmatic aspect of the Bible to the men out here. I wasn't really worried about women as far as that, because I'm not a woman, so I don't worry about thinking like one. I can't.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I'm a man, and I can bring these truthful aspects of it out.
Mhm.
And,
And
hey guys.
in the future, most high will it, I'm trying to plan a show to talk about some of those things. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with the brother, Spiritual Logic Hulk. He and I,
Yes.
and we'll probably bring you on as well,
Oh, okay.
and maybe a couple other brothers, and we're gonna have some biblically centered conversations.
Okay.
Working on my channel in the future, just for because a lot of guys don't like this kind of talk, but for the guys who do,
Yeah, do.
uh,
Right, right.
invite these gentlemen over here on one of these, probably one of these late nights to chop it up about stuff like this.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. That's one thing, I was glad about, when I said I was going to do something different in this space that, most don't do. I said, man, I'm glad I ain't got to worry about all of these knuckleheads coming over here because I know I ain't gonna have to, I know I ain't gonna have to
Yeah,
worry about kicking nobody out. So my
right.
subscribership is gonna be limited in that. But yeah, I think, and a lot of these guys here know Hulk from different platforms uh, that we all subscribe to and get on. and
Oh yeah.
we end up talking with each other and conversating, having just great conversations and stuff like that, where even if what differences we do have, we have a lot of things that we view and like.
Right. And Hawkins type of brother, although he may have his disagreements, he's not like many others who is gonna be upset with you because of disagreements. So yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
if any of you guys run into Hulk, I got his email, but tell him we were talking about him on this live stream.
Okay, I'll tell him, because at some point I'm sure to run into him at MOTs or somewhere, even at Zeros or whoever's.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure to
yeah,
run into him. But yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that'll be
definitely.
great.
Right, but yeah. Much love to that brother, man. I do look forward to working with him, man. He's a good guy,
Yeah,
definitely a good guy.
yeah, he is. He is.
And since you mentioned, I like the brother MOT a lot as well, man. Good guy.
Yes, man. He's a
What I like
great.
about MOT want to keep it how it was, when I first started YouTube, man. So
Yeah.
MOT is one of those orthodox conservatives, man. So
Yes.
much
Yeah,
MOT.
he is. And the one thing I respect about him, even though, like I said, I've been on his panels and others, the one thing that with all these guys that we've had a respect for is that we've been able to see each other through all this time and see what we say and see where we go. And I think that respect is kind of garnered there is because of the simple fact of, opinions not changing, who they are not shifting all the time. That way you can know, hey, even if we disagree about this, I know this is who he's this at all times, and we agree on this.
For sure.
The one thing that I believe in, whenever we talk about this book and we talk about it, is that even in there, it says, ain't no fence sitting. Either you are with him, or if you trying to straddle the fence, he gonna knock you out to the other side because you're not with him.
For sure.
Yeah.
Brother. Sure.
But do you have anything else, Brother Ram?
I think that's about it, man.
Okay.
I like to get a lot of interactions. If any guys got some questions for either you and I,
Okay.
take the last few minutes or so.
Yeah.
Entertain any questions they might have before I get up out of here.
Yeah, fellas. Y'all got any questions for Black Ram?
And if they don't, we can probably close the show out.
Yeah, we can close it out. Yeah. I've been trying to keep them shorter now. Yeah, especially whenever I try and go. I don't like to call them sermons. I like to go in a Bible study because I don't see myself as a preacher. I just like to outline a topic, and then we can have the barbershop talk. As somebody like to call it afterwards, where we can talk about it, and that way somebody can get the basic message.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Soul Provider. Thank you. It's my first interview, my first one-on-one. Yeah,
I'm
with an
honored to be
OG. Hey man, I appreciate it. I'm honored that you wanted to do it. I like that. I like this.
Oh yeah, man. I'm one of them type, man. I've been seeing you around the sector for a long time, been seeing you on my channel for a long time. So I'm like, yeah, been around a long time with rocking with the content, man. So like, let me go on and jump on here. Somebody had a question before him. Shing Shang said, how about a retreat with Brother Ohim?
Okay, I missed
Shing
that.
Shang, quit playing, man. Shing Shang in here, capping, man.
Yeah, always on something.
Shing Shang is subscribed to the Patreon. He subscribed to my channel. He subscribed to Ohim. Shing Shang know dang on well when this stuff open up, most high willing, we going to Thailand. Come on, Shing Shang. You already know. He put that in there just to remind me of what we supposed to do.
Yeah. I remember that. I forgot about that.
Passport. So Shing Shang in the comment section messing with me. Shout out to Shing Shang, man, because he already know the answer to that. Gion's Ankle Work says, Black Ram, do you like Chronicle of Judah work? Yeah. Oh yeah. I like his basketball commentary, man. I like how he break down, what goes on, in the background with the powers that be, with the whole entertainment industry. But yeah, I like Chronicles a lot.
Yeah,
Chronicles dynamic. The only thing.
Go ahead.
This is no shot at Chronicles of Judah. This is no shot at Chronicles of Judah. This is a me and Solo TV 84 thing. People started saying, yeah, she's the agent of chaos. I'm like, okay, y'all forgot BlackRam313's first video in 2013 was entitled Women Want Chaos. And I talked about that women are chaotic and that's who they are and that's what they want. So all I wanted was my, like Alan Roger Curry. I know what he's been doing with AMS. I just wanted my proper credit attribution. But other than that, I'm not saying Chronicle Judah took that from me. I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
hey, don't forget who's been here saying that for the longest. But yeah, I
Yeah.
like Chronicle Judah a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying he took that from me. I'm not saying that.
So you ain't saying he
Your
stole your
boy been
shit?
here. No, I'm not saying he stole it from me. I'm just saying that your boy has said that in 2013, and I'm sure my channel predates his. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, man, I like Chronicles of Judah a lot. A lot of respect for the brother. I think he's doing great work. I think he's on Patreon only now. But yeah, man, he's had definitely some great commentary.
And Marco
Yeah.
Grande. Has he been to the birth of the religions he believes? And if not, why?
No, I have not been to Israel and Africa. That's one of those things that I plan on doing in the future, hopefully.
Okay.
The goal would be to go to the libraries and the museums to look at the artifacts of the ancient Israelite culture. And there's museums in, of course, Britain and Israel that I can do that. And I would like to visit some of those archaeological sites, particularly in Israel and also in Egypt as well.
Okay. Then Hypocrisy's got his question up here. BlackRam313. Thoughts on corner preaching Israelites that dropped all the outfits and rhetoric once in Israel and put that kippa on real quick and assimilate?
I couldn't really say that they would or that they wouldn't. So let me first off start by saying that I do have a tremendous amount of respect for the camps that are out there. My only thing is that I have theological differences, but I do respect those brothers a lot. So if I'm ever in a place and I see them speaking, I'm gonna go up and greet them and talk to them. So I have to say that I have a lot of respect for them and what they do. And I have a lot of those men who are subscribed to me and I'm subscribed to them. And I have learned quite a bit of things from the camps. So I want to just say that. However, my theology proper is just different from theirs, as it is with most people. So if you remember, Sama, when we were talking, I said, hey, I'm not the typical Israelite. My beliefs are quite different than most. So, yeah.
Right. I do remember that.
Ooh, Soul Provider
had to put in a shout out. Oh, he did? Okay. Where is it? Down here at the bottom. Oh.
Yeah, Soul Provider asked that heavy question. Oh man, that's heavy, man. In 10 years. Well, since I've been here for 8 years and I've seen a lot of changes. I remember it was hardcore Tito the Fresh who predicted a lot of things, saying that the next war wasn't between the BW and black men. The next war between us and the Simps, and that time has passed. So this is why I've seen the Manosphere evolve. I've seen it go from being a place where brothers come and air out their grievances when it comes to dating relationships, particularly in America, but also worldwide. I've seen it go from not being monetized to monetized, super chats and AdSense revenue. And I've seen a lot of people come in the game fake and phony and are only about the money that it brings. And I've also seen it evolve from being a male space, to a space that's about females now. So here's the thing. And I don't actually have necessarily a problem with it. I'm just noting the changes. So here we go. We've gone from a male space. We've gone from wars with different groups within the male space. And we've gone from wars with females within the male space, or vice versa, to having females in the space. So where I see the space in 10 years is not a male space at all. We would probably call it the blackosphere, but it won't be no manosphere. Because what I realized at the end of the day, all we want in this sector is attention from women. And you can tell that's true because if somebody put a woman in their panel, again, I don't have a problem with brothers who do this, but if a man put a woman on this panel, now there go 10,000 views.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Who says changes for worse or better? I'm going to say for worse. Definitely for worse. And the reason why I say for worse is because it went from being about strong manhood, right? Now, you still got some guys who are still orthodox in preaching manhood, myself included. But it went from being manhood and demanding from women to let's now compromise with them and share this space with them. And when you bring the succubus in, what she's going to bring is chaos. And isn't that what you see on a lot of live streams?
Oh yeah.
Complete and utter chaos. Now, it's entertaining, and sometimes I watch it to get a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine to a degree to have some women on for laughs if it's for the reason to show evidence of what we're talking about. And that's the difference. So you got some guys who bring females on to show evidence, but the vast majority is to say, hey, we want to be with you. We're trying to win your affections. We're trying to win your approval. So understand the difference between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think the other thing too, you said they're trying to win their approval. I kind of agree with Zero in the simple fact, these niggas are trying to negotiate the terms of their surrender, even though they do not have any power.
There you go. Wholeheartedly. At the end of the day, they say, hey, come on and look at us. And at the end of the day, they really want this succubus to be theirs. And they really want to take her as she is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, I guess if that's all on the questions from everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting this. The Hypocrisy said this stream was as good as new on Agon's panel, the Oak and Dope shit. Thank you, Hypocrisy, man. I wanted to do something different than what had done before and provide something that would be good and entertaining to what we normally have in this space and what we've been seeing, but it still be male centered and just have guys that have like opinions be able to come together and express them in a positive way without running each other down, but have good time. You got anything that before you go, Black Ram?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, the floor is yours.
Appreciate that, man. If you guys are not subscribed, check out my channel, BlackRam313 on YouTube. If you're not subscribed, check out the Patreon page. We do a show, Most High Willing, every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central. It's called The Real Pill Perspective with myself and my host, Ohim Amara of Male Enlightenment TV. You can catch us tomorrow, Most High Willing, at 3 p.m. Central on Male Enlightenment Television's channel. And if you not subscribed, if you haven't been there, when you come there tomorrow, let Ohim know that I sent you. So we'll be over there tomorrow, and Most High Willing the following week on Sunday we'll be on my channel as well. So check out The Real Pure Perspective, man. We're orthodox, we're conservative over there. We really believe in principles of manhood, and we want to keep this space the way it was originally intended. So if you want some of that content, come over there and check us out. And I'm super busy, but listening to this channel, you gentlemen in the chat room, hopefully one day soon I will be premiering Brother Eisen Sama on my channel as well. So be looking for him to come and chop it up with me over there.
Okay, so, okay. And I left the link to your channel in the chat. Oh, no problem. And I think a lot of guys, here, they enjoyed it. I probably all of them know about your channel here. And got Sunshine in there with your trademark line. Think about it,
sir.
And no, it was therapeutic, and there is no line in therapy. But that's all that I have, fellas. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Oakland, like it's got down there at the bottom on that ticker, and you can see the Cash App if you want to hit that. And also, apparently somebody did hit it. Wait, hold on. Let me give a shout out. Say thank you. Let me say thank you to my people here. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate it, El Grande. Appreciate the Cash App, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. Who else? New. Thank you for the Cash App. My phone was on, so here I can look and see. I appreciate y'all for supporting. And But yeah, don't forget to subscribe and share. And hey, we'll be back in here again tomorrow. And we out. Peace, guys.
Peace.